that, you know what, they believe in Jimmy G, and why go in a different direction when they've already been to a Super Bowl with this guy? I think that's their mentality, and I think as a result of that, they hold on to him and they give him a chance to move the franchise forward.
Well, I think Jimmy G is underrated. He's a guy who wins 3 times as much as he loses, as you point out, Stephen A., for franchises where when he's not playing, they lose more than twice as much as they win. So he's obviously a lot better than the backups, right? And it's not like he's playing for guys who don't know offense, Shanahan and and Josh McDaniels. Like he's been in situations where you think the backup could perform better. He's actually got value. But clearly, they're looking. Clearly, they think they can do better, right? It's out there too often. And where I look at is Atlanta, because I know they would take an enormous cap hit. I mean, they'd have to restructure something with Matt Ryan, but that team should be rebuilding. And Arthur Blank has said that Matt Ryan's going to have a voice in what happens in his future. And Shanahan is there in San Francisco, where they are loaded. And Jimmy G is doing a good job, but maybe they feel like the Rams felt with Goff, they can find someone who can do a better job. And even though Matt Ryan may be not what he once was, maybe they feel he's not what he once was, but maybe Shanahan looks at Matt Ryan and says, no, you give me that guy on this team. We got a defense, too. We're going to be just fine. We can make a Super Bowl run. And I'll tell you why I think this also. Adam Schefter thinks this is going to be an unprecedented year of quarterbacks changing teams. We haven't really seen that yet. So as we go from team to team, I think some of these things are going to happen. And my guess is Matt Ryan in San Francisco.
Yeah, I think the Matt Ryan thing, from your perspective, the number I think is going to be the kicker for me. It's just I'm not sure how they work that out. Also, the age of Matt Ryan, like
35.
Quality of quality of upgrade for how long does that make you the powerhouse in the NFC? I'm not sure. I'm kind of with Stephen A. on this with the Jimmy G scenario possibly working itself out. I would say this, though, with all the movement that Schefter's talking about and that we're all talking about and anticipating, a guy like Derek Carr, for me, would be a guy who I think would fit in and could grow and develop with this, right? And we all know Gruden's always looking for the next great quarterback. He doesn't matter, like that's his MO, right? It's always the next guy for him is the guy that he wants. And so from Derek Carr's perspective, this guy has played better than people give him credit for. And I think for him, that type of situation, but with the movement that you're seeing in the NFL with all these quarterbacks saying, hey, I don't want to be in this situation, whether it's a Deshaun Watson type situation, finding that fit for Shanahan, I do think that is the piece that takes them back to the Super Bowl. And for all that we said about Jimmy G winning and the ways he's won, availability is still the best ability. The guy gets hurt a bunch. And from my perspective, a guy blocking for you each and every week, the consistency of you showing up Sunday after Sunday after Sunday, there's something to that. So from the injury perspective alone, I would at least look around, from a leadership role, from all those things that you talked about, from like Richard Sherman talking about him and George Kittle, respect, right? Those guys aren't just going to give you lip service, so I appreciate those things. But I do want a guy who's there every week. That has not been Jimmy G to this point in San Francisco.
Jeff, let me bunch two questions together and just throw it at you. I get that. I understand what you're saying. But the flip side to it is that Matt Ryan has had 3 consecutive losing seasons. I have to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And number 2, and more importantly, here's what really, it's not even the losses, because, a lot of that was injury related and, especially problems on your defensive side of the ball. I get that. But I'm also looking at a Matt Ryan that couldn't get it done, even though you had Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. I mean, am I supposed to ignore that, Jeff? Am I supposed to ignore that?
He didn't have the Niners defense.
No. Yeah,
but still, man.
Listen, you have to. Yeah, I agree with you, Stephen A. I'll say this part about Matt Ryan. The thing that has been probably the most damning for what he's done are those things. Is he has been loaded with talent. at the skill position, right? Whether it's receiver, even tight ends through his career, running backs when he had two really good running backs simultaneously, all of those things, and they still couldn't quite get it done from the offensive perspective, or they couldn't win it, right? We know the Patriots meltdown, all those kinds of things. But when you look at Matt Ryan, the age for me is why you might necessarily want to make that flip, right? Like you said, 35 years old, going in, because I do not believe that if he goes there, automatically they're the Super Bowl favorites. If I believe that guy, like if a Deshaun Watson went there, you would probably say they're now going to be the favorite in the NFC. As crazy as that sounds with Tom Brady,
I just don't
and what
think,
we
Jeff,
just saw
that
with
they have
Green
enough.
Bay. Yeah.
I don't think they have enough to get Deshaun Watson. I'm looking around at teams like, realistically, who's
Right.
going to wind up where? I don't see Deshaun Watson in San Francisco, right? So I start looking around, and you talk about age. Well, they're built to win now, San Francisco. And like the Rams, they're thinking we'll pay a premium to upgrade. Even though we have a pretty good guy, we think we can get a better guy that will know how to use better. Matt Ryan hasn't looked good recently. He's been playing for bad teams. The coach got fired. When Shanahan left, basically that team fell apart. Remember, their offense was so much ahead of everyone else's. We were like, boy, the NFC is going to have to deal with this for years. And it didn't turn out that way once Shanahan left. Meantime, Matt Ryan, for a 4-win team, he had more attempts and more completions than anyone in the league. They were throwing it a lot all the time. You're playing from behind. You're not on a very good team. And he was made to look worse than I think he is right now because of the cap hit. And I believe they'd restructure his deal to try to figure something out so it wouldn't be like a $40 million cap hit. Because of that, he'll probably come cheap. And I think it comes down to, does the head coach survey the landscape and think, who's the best available guy for what I want to do? And I would think that Shanahan would look at Ryan and think, we can get him. We can actually get him, and he'll be an improvement.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we are looking at Matt Ryan, since winning MVP back in 2016, he is ranked 13th in QBR among qualified passers. All right, guys, we have one more team in this QB.